welcome to focusing on your community to combat CPIs. My name is Tim Tay, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Kano Apps. If you guys have any questions about anything through the talk, you can follow me or connect with me on LinkedIn or through email. If you send me a message, it may take a little bit, but I'll definitely get back to you. Before we jump into the talk, I'd just like to give you a bit of context around who Kano Apps is and what we do. We were bootstrapped in 2008, and we were one of the early developers to find success on the Facebook platform. We're not located in the Bay, but instead we're 100% based in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. We develop multi-platform, free-to-play social games utilizing HTML5. And in 2014, we're completely self-sustaining, profitable, and growing with a current team size of 20. Since our start, we've released 5 top-rated strategy games on Facebook. We were runner-up for MMO of the Year on Armor Games in 2013. We're a Congregate preferred partner, and almost 6 years later, we've had over 10 million installs worldwide on really a shoestring budget. We attribute our success to building a great culture internally and focusing on our community externally. Now that you guys have a bit of context around who we are, let's walk through what we're going to be discussing today. So we'll start with a brief view of what the UA landscape looks like today, what we did as a company to build our community, the results of those efforts, and some of the obstacles that we face, and we'll end with a short recap. So around UA, I think here's a really good quote that basically is stating that the market is getting saturated and app marketing costs are going up. I'm not going to walk through too many stats because you guys can Google CPIs and see those things for yourselves, but Fixu reported that in May there was a 56% increase year over year on iOS and a 30% increase year over year on Android. What that really boils down to for us as developers is that past optimizing user acquisition, keeping every player that you acquire for as long as possible is key. So how did we approach that particular problem set? From the beginning, our purpose has been to build a vibrant and thriving community around fun and engaging social games. As a bootstrap company, we've never had a huge marketing budget to use to acquire players, so focusing on keeping them has been paramount. Where other much larger companies were churning and burning players, our goal was to retain them for as long as possible. How we did that was by focusing on 3 major facets to build our following. First off, we focused on social actions within our games. Initially, we were one of the early developers on Facebook, so we did that for virality. But later, as the viral channels on Facebook and other platforms started to kind of tighten up, we learned that providing social actions and engagement really help players to connect within the games. So we made it easy for them and incentivized people to socialize and build those meaningful connections within the games. As a small indie developer, we were lucky to enter a market where we could build a product that was comparable with our competitors. But as social games evolved and bigger and larger teams were pushing out huge features, our team just wasn't able to keep up. So we had to be different. Instead of viewing being small as a disadvantage and hiding behind our brand, we humanized ourselves by showing that we weren't a 3,000 person company, that actually, when we started, we were 4 guys working out of a condo. Players related to us better. They were also more forgiving with some of the mistakes that we made. By giving players a direct access to our developer teams, we were able to build trust and loyalty. And from the beginning, we ensured that if anyone was writing to us, they would have real people that were actually answering those emails. Even now, we have a direct frontline support team. We still have our development teams really active in addressing player issues and having a direct line to support tickets that are coming through. To supplement those efforts, we implemented external forums to provide information and a resource to players. Although a small percentage of our player base actually posts to those forums, a significant amount of them browse them. And this allows us to reach players and show them how we're different than other companies. Additionally, we've formed a player council sub-forum for our longtime VIP players. This helps us to forge stronger relationships with loyal and longtime supporters of the games. Our community is invaluable for us when we're trying to design new features or push new content in the games. So what are the results we've seen? Well, one thing we've seen is amazing retention. Similar to games like WoW that are built around community and social relationships within the games, we have a relatively low initial retention for our games. They're pretty niche and they're pretty mid-core core. But players who pass the level 10 mark in our game tend to stick around on average for about a year. And players that get a little bit deeper to level 50 stick around indefinitely. Our first game was Viking Clan, which came out at the end or early 2009, so it's almost 6 years old. And we have daily players that joined in month 1. With retention comes really passionate evangelists and brand supporters. A great example of the power of that came when we released our game to Congregate. We've always been multi-platform. So early on, we released to Facebook. We also released to social networks, if you guys remember, like MySpace and High Five. But in moving to, as user acquisition costs were growing, last year we made a push to release our games to other platforms. And the two that we released last year were Congregate and Armor Games. In moving our games to a platform relatively late and with the games that have been around for quite a long time, there was a lot of bad connotations with the type of game that we released, especially on Kong, which has a lot of hardcore gamers. So they looked at our game as having an energy mechanic. It was a Facebook game. It didn't have much animation. We're kind of a text-based RPG. We also had bad associations with other developers. So people providing really poor experiences, trying to over-monetize their players. And Kong provides promotion based on a star rating. But we were facing 1-star reviews, and people weren't even playing the games that playing past level 1. So what we did was we had our community manager really active, jumped in, and when people were giving us comments and they were rating us poorly and not playing the games, we were jumping in and addressing that. We were trying to show people how we were different, how we interacted with players, how we iterated on projects, and internally just trying to build trust with those players. The other thing we did was we went to our community and we said, hey, we're releasing to a new platform. This is going to bring new blood into the games that you guys love to play. If you have more people playing, then the games are going to grow. So by reaching out to those people, they came in and they joined Kong, and they jumped onto chat, and they were able to talk to players and tell them how we were different, that there was a lot of depth in the games. There was content for over 4 years in some of these games. So what that really resulted in was we were able to keep our reviews high, and we were able to convert more players, and we became a preferred partner on Kong, and we're able to get more promotion on the platform. Managing games as a service, we're continually pushing new content and features to maintain our player retention, and our community has been instrumental in helping us to create features to tailor to our audiences specifically. We're able to, so as games as a service, we push locations monthly, and with that, we're able to push locations that people are looking for. We monetize highly through our virtual goods, so providing people with goods that they want to buy, the type of sword or the type of shield that they want in the games, just translated to us selling more of those items. And then the other thing was feature issues. We were able to address feature issues as the games grew, and there was different dynamics that happened. Also, when we were releasing new features, players have been very helpful with that. Lastly, this one's a little bit more fun, but we get to build meaningful relationships with the players, and we get to engage with players on more personal levels. This isn't something that we see a huge monetary gain, I guess, on, but it makes us feel great as a studio. Our games have facilitated several weddings where players have met and gotten married by playing the games. And last year we've created in-game commemorative items for those players. So every time a player gets married in the game, we provide them with rings that they can show off to other players in the game. And last year we were able to participate in our first proposal, where we basically set up a mini game for a player. We work with them so that when their girlfriend was playing the game, they were able to play through, and she saw this instead of the regular boss image that shows up at the end. She said yes. But all of this isn't without obstacles. So with a large community, although that you try to please everyone, you can't. People have differing opinions, and they want things that can actually sometimes be detrimental to the games and your business model that you have in place. So that said, every change you make will be scrutinized, and dealing with that is something that you have to be prepared and ready for. Kano Apps makes competitive free-to-play games, and whenever you have competition, you run into people trying to game the situation. One debate, people are looking for exploits. They use bots to gain unfair advantages, and that in turn creates friction within the community. One debate that comes up is around high-paying whales who cheat and what action should be taken against those guys. I won't delve into that, as that's something that probably can be a whole nother talk on that. But what I will say is that you have to have really strong policies in place, and you have to work with your community to address problems. Games are hard to change once they're established. So once a game has been out there for 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, players get used to playing those games a certain way. There's balancing issues that get introduced, and when a change is made, it really pisses off your community, because the people that got to that high level or wherever they got through by learning how to play a certain system, and when you change that, they feel that's unfair. You have to be empathetic with dealing with players, and you have to work to create a better game instead of trying to police players strictly. I think that's one thing that we learned is, when we look at players that are cheating or doing those types of actions in the games, instead of looking at trying to police them strictly and saying that, hey, you're cheating, you're going to get cut off, instead we kind of look at it as a problem within our games. Our games are maybe not balanced properly, or there's some reason why those players are going to those great lengths to try to get that advantage. So we, instead of policing them, we try to work with our players, and we try to understand what's flawed in our model so that we can try to improve that over time. So we're a business of building games as a service, and it's important for us to treat these games as ever-evolving products. As you build your community and it grows and evolves, it's important to build trust with your users and to ensure that you're in touch with what they want. Ensuring game mechanics are in place to facilitate meaningful relationships within your games and not just for virality is really important. Listening to your players and trying to provide two-way communication channels. So that's really what our support channels and to an extent our player council is for. We try to forge relationships, because I think a lot of times when you look at support itself, that's a one-way channel. Players will only connect with you when they have a problem within their games. And what you want to try to do as a developer is build a two-way communication, so you can shoot them an email and they'll actually answer the questions that you have. And to do that, you have to build trust with those players. The last thing is have a public presence for people who are too shy or who don't want to contact you directly, so they can learn more about your games. Although not a lot of people are actually interacting with your forums, posting or being active in that manner, people are watching what you're posting. So that really gives you an opportunity, not just on forums, but on media, on your website, to show players what you're all about and how you're different than other companies. With free-to-play games, people are very wary about, being ripped off. So if you can show that you build trust, that you're a trustworthy company, they'll be more willing to work with you and to support your games. So we use these techniques that we've talked about to grow our online communities, and now we're incorporating those into a new game called Freerider HD, which really represents, I think, an ultimate community-driven game. This is a game that's a kind of a step away from our mid-core titles, but it's a game that's driven 100% by user-generated content. So I think that's something that's a trend that we're going to see moving forward. We're already seeing it with games like Minecraft. With user-generated content, you're not the one producing the content, your community is, so they take more ownership in that. So initially we've only released as a beta, but we're really excited by the results that we've seen so far. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Questions?
Excuse me, the external forums, to what degree do you think that your Facebook page itself can serve that purpose or play a role in that, or what are your thoughts about Facebook and the whole notion of external interaction with your users?
Yeah, so when we first started, I think we had all of our groups available on Facebook. We just pushed them over to forums, just as so that we could have more control, I think, of that. We do use our Facebook pages a lot. What we do with those ones is mainly to drive content out. So whenever we have a lot of events within our games, or when we're pushing out new content like virtual items and things like that, we use our Facebook pages to share that with our community. So we actually use a number of different channels: Facebook, Google+, our forums, Twitter. I think you're trying to reach your players in ways that they're going to connect with you, and they may not connect on just one single channel.
But you do allow your users to post to your Facebook?
Yeah, we do. Yep. Sorry.
Yeah. So you've got 20 people.
Yes.
How many people are community managers within your 20?
So we have one community manager that's just directly committed to taking care of our community and posting out releases. And then we have 2 support people, player support people, and then but the player support team and the internal development teams work really closely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are they 2 full-time?
2 full-time, yes. Yeah.
And then you mentioned an app. It was Kayako.
Kayako, yeah. So that's our support tool. So we used to do all our support through email, and that was difficult to track players and to track history on what was going on. So we started to use more of a CRM, which Kayako is. It's a ticketing system, so we can see history of the player. The worst thing that you want to do is have a new support person or a support person address a long-playing VIP whale that's been around for 4 years and spent a lot of money in your games with a stock email. When they see that, it really pisses them off.
The name of the tool again?
Kayako.
K-A-O?
K-A... I don't know. There we go.
Yeah, so I mean, I found your approach really fascinating. I was just wondering, how did you kind of come to realize the community was going to be the most important thing? Did you try to do some paid user acquisition and that didn't really pan out for you? Or?
Yeah, I mean, so we've done user acquisition. I think it really came down. One of my partners early just we were interacting with people. So when we were developing the games, we were the support team. We would, when there was 3 of us developing and 1 guy dedicated to like graphic design, as tickets were coming in, we just rolled. So every week it would be one of the co-founders basically answering questions, and we were just seeing a lot of value in that. People were giving us really good feedback on what we should try to change in our game, and then we would make people happy. They would have a problem, we'd make them happy, and they'd comment about it, or if they were monetizing players, they might spend a little bit more money within the games. So we just saw it as a positive feedback loop. So we just continued to push that. The other thing was, because user acquisition was such a difficult thing for us, it costs so much to bring in a user. We were like, we can't lose that user. We need to keep those guys as long as possible.